Hello everybody. On July 25th, Venus will be turning retrograde in Virgo. And then for about 6 days it will remain in this earth sign of practicality, as well as logic, reason, common sense, and all that detail-oriented good stuff. But then it's going to move back even further to where it will take the main stage in Leo. So on the 31st of July, Venus retrograde will be moving into Leo, where it will stay retrograding through August up until the 6th of September. Now, Venus retrograde is a very different kind of retrograde than, say, a more common Mercury retrograde, or the yearly Saturn or Jupiter retrogrades. Venus retrograde itself can be a fairly intense challenge because it talks a lot about examining, I guess you could say, surface human qualities. And Venus retrograde itself is an energy that turns, I guess you could say, what we call outward love in on itself. We have to pay attention to our more, I guess you could say, shallow or maybe even superficial priorities. You know, when Venus retrograde also happens, it can kind of play on our insecurities. When Venus, the planet of love and luck, is all about how we feel love, what we desire from love, and how we give love. When it's retrograde, it's really more about what do we do, or what do we think it takes to get love, but again, from a place of insecurity, a place of lack, general negativity. For the 6 days that this planet is retrograding through Virgo, I don't anticipate very much. It usually takes longer than 6 days for a retrograde to go into full effect. I will say, for everyone now, maybe I should just get this out of the way now, videos like this are a general sort of global astrology discussion about the sign and the planet and what it's in. If you want to know how this personally affects your sun sign or your rising sign, I highly recommend checking out your monthly astrology horoscope. Now, with Venus retrograding through Virgo, there may be a week or so where we have to examine what we consider to be professionalism, what we might consider to be healthy, and see what issues may be sort of driving any kind of sensitivities or insecurities we may have about that. Venus retrograde in Virgo may bring out some issues, especially concerning things like body image, our health regimen, the health regimen of other people. That's because Venus retrograde can cause people to project a little bit. You know, and so all of a sudden we might project a little bit of our own insecurities about, again, our body image or our professional standing or how hard we work or our personal work ethic onto others. Suddenly it's chastising other people for their, for their professionalism, their timeliness, their punctuality. Maybe projecting onto other people about their choice of diet or their exercise regimen or lack thereof. Be careful. Be careful during that 6 days between the 25th and the 31st while Venus is retrograde in Virgo, because what can happen is that we really are being shown, within ourselves, what can kind of make us turn a little nasty about taking up that cause. It's not necessarily important to force that kind of value onto other people if we might not necessarily have that mastered ourselves. And Venus retrograde really does point out internal insecurities around anything. It can also make people a bit more aggressive, a bit more testy, regardless of what sign that it's in. Suddenly people are taking things a little bit too personally, reacting a little bit too harshly. It's very easy for people who have Venus retrograde in their natal charts to internalize experiences for way too long. It's a challenge that some people with those retrogrades in their charts have to overcome. People who have retrogrades in their natal charts do have to learn to grow into or out of those things. I myself have a couple of retrogrades in my natal chart. I've got a Jupiter retrograde, I think I also have a Uranus retrograde. Those are things that, that everyone kind of grows into and out of. It all depends. But with Venus retrograde in the natal chart, there may be a reason to pay attention to what we might put too much value into things. Or again, in the season, in the present day, putting too much value or emotional currency into one thing and creating an unbalanced lifestyle or an unbalanced expectation because of it. So while Venus is retrograde in Virgo for that week, we may be doing that with our sense of work ethic, professionalism, maybe even the health of ourselves, or maybe even the health and lifestyles of others. Venus goes retrograde back into Leo, talking about a very different kind of beast. Leo is the sign of image. It's the sign of self-love. It is the sign of self-empowerment. It is also the sign that very much wants to have that validation, that sense of confirmation, like-mindedness. But Venus retrograde may be showing us an interesting challenge here. Is like-mindedness the important thing, or is solidarity? If we don't know the difference between solidarity and like-mindedness, we should start there. Like-mindedness is having similar tastes, similar interests. I don't have perfect relationships with everyone who has similar tastes and interests as me. Solidarity is something completely different. Solidarity is the celebration of diversity while working towards the same cause or the same goal. We don't have to share the same taste. We don't have to share the same belief system. We don't have to emulate or copy or confirm through conformity. Venus retrograde may show us where we might accidentally be doing that. Venus retrograde in Leo can also talk a little bit about image again, but instead of in the interest of health, as a Venus retrograde in Virgo would be, it may actually have to do with the, I guess you could say, the surface values, maybe of the world that we live in. The surface values that we have when it comes to the sense of beauty. What is beauty? What is fashionable? People may actually become more image conscious and project that onto other people. It's also about remembering what's really important in love. Because with Venus retrograde in Leo, we may be asking for a lot more attention. We may be looking for a lot more than what it would really take in a situation where we felt more secure. There are situations that come up with this kind of angle that are very interesting, especially when it comes to relationships, romantic relationships. You probably heard a lot of other astrologers say it, and I'll say it as well. This is not a good time to cement or become official in any kind of relationship. If you are casually seeing somebody or dating somebody, you know what, you can go on dating them. But if you've been planning on pushing towards making it official, however you choose to make it official, I would take a lot of care. Better to do it before or after. And that can actually be an interesting test, especially for people who are looking to be official, looking to stop dating and become exclusive, looking for people to, to change their status with and all that kind of stuff. If we can't wait a month to do it, how secure are we in this relationship? How important is that label? Also important about image, how important are labels in general? We live in a time where there's a different kind of label whoredom going on. I could actually fill up a page with labels about myself. And not only is that trendy, but that is also the new norm. If I went around saying that my name is Nico, and I'm a Virgo with a Leo moon and a Libra rising, and I'm also gay, and I'm biracial, my mother's Scottish, and my father's South American, Myers-Briggs, ENFJ, and with, it's just too much. It's too much categorization going on. I think the Venus retrograde in Leo is very timely for that. Maybe the problem is that, again, we're focusing too much on labels and like-mindedness as opposed to solidarity as a world community. This can also, again, talk a lot about labels in another sense, how we look at people in terms of status, how we value things in terms of status. A lot of discussion can happen every once in a while when it comes to the evaluation of worth, whether it's the worth of a person, the worth of a service, the worth of an object, the worth of a property. And when we talk about things like worth, really, do we know how to measure worth the right way? We have to ask ourselves that during a Venus retrograde. Some people might think that expensive means better. It's not always the case. Does something have to cost more to be valuable? Does it? Does it? And does it show you who you are? Does it show you how important you are? Does how many friends you have on social media, like Facebook or Twitter, does that matter? Does that really matter so much? Or is it more important that you have somebody to share a balanced amount of emotional currency with? I think that this is very important to talk about because I think that in this last year with the transit of Jupiter through Leo, we've seen a lot of consequences for the expansion of plastic and superficial priorities. And about over the last, I'm going to say the last 2 months, I'm starting to also notice the population kind of wake up and demand things that are a bit more socially, spiritually edifying. Edifying. They're looking for things that are more edifying, which is very important. And maybe Venus retrograde is showing us now to pay attention. What is and is not edifying to our character? You know, is it having 5,000 Facebook friends? Or a really expensive bag? Or a really, really shiny car? You know, is that what's edifying? Is being able to say you're in a relationship with somebody you don't even know edifying? It's so important to pay attention to these kinds of things during transits like this. Image consciousness can be a really big problem in our society because we have a tendency to want to give people what we think they want. Nobody's even told us what they want. Or if they do, they sure as don't know about consistency in that demand. So it may be actually important to think about that. How can you live up to the demands of others that don't even know what they want full time? Venus retrograde. It's a twisted little cruller. It may get under everyone's skin just a little bit. But it's a very important lesson to see that love is not what's in your wallet, what's on your face, what's on your arm, or who you get to show off to anyone. There's a lot more going on, and a lot more to pay attention to. Be careful, because Venus retrograde can show us where we might be objectifying things that are so much more than mere objects, especially when it comes to our spirituality, the people in our lives, the relationships we have, and the concern that we should be showing for where we're going.